Welcome, good morning, everyone. Very special guest today at Body Awareness Institute, Elina Kadaja, and invited Elina to talk today about healing from burnout and the role of breathwork, bodywork, and massage, holistic healing modalities to recover from burnout. I think burnout is a big topic those days. We are very much engaged in the Western world into a lot of activities, a lot of doings, a lot of focus on a lot of achievements, and it's a beautiful from one side because it gives us purpose, it gives us fulfillment, but on the other side, from my own experience, I know that sometimes pushing ourselves too far can have also big costs on our health and our body. So welcome, Elina. And we are friends for a while. You were also a student of mine, and I know your story about burnout. You have been working in a corporation for a while, and then you quit it, and now you became a holistic health practitioner, traveling around the world and helping others to live more healthy and more peaceful life. So maybe say a few words about yourself and your journey from burnout to fulfillment.
Thank you very much, Nisarga. That was a great introduction to me. I was hoping that you would open up this who is Elina conversation. Well, I am from Estonia, which is a post-Soviet country. And when I read the books about how to raise children from my grandmother, then it's very clearly said there that Estonians are meant to be raised to be workers, to be field workers. So resting has never been a priority in any of the instructions of how to raise people, raise children. It has been mostly about how to raise workers. So it has been in my family's lineage to be focused on overachieving for generations. I found an article about my grandmother, great grandmother, yeah, and it was like big article that that's such a great worker that only one day from an entire year she missed work. But the cost of that was that my grandmother was raised with her grandmother, so she didn't get time with her mother. Yeah, and now my grandmother didn't take time to raise my parents when they were little, my mother, yeah, and so this like overworking, like work is more important than anything else, is just coming from the lineage. And for me, it has also been the way of how I can earn love, or how I can earn being seen, or how can I justify my existence that I have the right to be, I have the right to live, because this is what is expected from me, and only if I work hard, I will be accepted. I will have the right to. And that has created like a generational, like very strong pattern in me that needs discipline to break. Because I feel that I can easily go into this like the world, and I know my capabilities, and the world is so big, and I just go, I travel, and I'm like, oh, I want to do it all. This is great, and then I rest when I feel exhausted, not before I feel exhausted. But this is like a new level of discipline for me, to take a break before I feel exhausted.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, this is very beautiful what you said about that. Like I think we grow up with certain belief systems about pretty much anything, about relationship, about work, about our health, about money. And you mentioned something quite strong that I also resonate, that I can deserve love if I work hard, for example. This is a belief system that somehow we learn from somewhere, from somebody in childhood usually. And so I had also a belief system around money, similar, that I need to work hard to be able to afford abundant living. And after I quit corporation, it took me a while to reset this belief system that actually I can do something that I enjoy to make my living, to create abundant life. So I wonder, what was your journey about shifting from this belief system that I need to work hard to get love or to get appreciation? How this shaped you right now?
Well, I explored it, I feel, to a little bit of extreme, where I decided that I'm gonna cut off 80% of how much I normally work. And then I started to look for confirmation if I'm still loved, if I am not working that much.
Mm.
And I could get the confirmation that I was still loved from certain type of people whose norm was also working less. But the people whose norm is overworking, I absolutely didn't get the approval from.
Mm.
So it was very crucial for me to surround myself with environments that support my choice of lifestyle.
Okay, that makes sense. But then I'm curious about finding a balance, because both sides for me, when I look into burnouts and my journey about coming out of burnout from corporate world, and also like even lately, even doing what I'm passionate about, I noticed that sometimes I push myself too far, and I don't go into burnouts anymore. But I can sense that at times I'm on my limits, and so where is this golden place where we don't overdo with the activities for gaining love or appreciation, but we also don't, let go of things that we're passionate about, and because the other extreme is also for me a place where I mean, it's okay for a while to rest, but somehow doesn't resonate with me in terms of the fulfillment and passion, just to let go completely. So I'm curious, what is that middle way for you, or maybe not, like, how you see that?
I can say like what this biohacking community says about this and all this health optimization, high performance world, that you need to take 20 minutes rest between every 90 minutes of working in order for your hormones to be balanced and for you to be in peak performance. But to tell you the truth, for me, this is a journey. And this is not something that I am pressuring myself to master, but rather something that I am curious about exploring every day. How can I today take care of myself in a way um, that is relevant to my hormonal balance? Because I'm in a female body and my cycle goes by the moon cycles. And it is very difficult for me to plan my life and then override my body's needs.
Mm. Mm.
So I'm looking for the balance between structure and flow in a way that I can account in my like biorhythms or like my
Yeah.
biological. Yeah.
So basically, you just listen to the body, and when it says stop, you take a break, and you take your holidays. It's fantastic. But you know what? One more thing is coming to me while we're talking, and I'm curious your view on this, because I'm noticing something about also activities that comes from passion and activities that we do because we have to do. Like I remember when I was working in corporation, I don't think it was a job that was giving me too much passion, or I was, thriving there. I was doing it because, I finished university and then I started this job, and then eventually after a few months it became a habit in a way, like a pattern going from 8 to 5, and then I noticed that when I feel like I found my passion, I find my way, and I have clear vision about my future, pretty much. As much as we can have a vision for the future, but in my imagination, I do. I believe I have somehow vision for the future, even though things can happen that are unpredictable and we don't know. But somehow having that passion, I see like it gives me much more motivation, much more energy, and I don't really like. It's not about pushing myself. It's more about um, really being excited to fulfill this vision, and I'm just curious, like, how does burnout refer to that when we are passionately involved in something versus we just doing it because we have to, because there's obligation, we have to show up at work, and maybe we're not super happy about this work. As accountant, if we have a soul of artist, for example, it's so many people that work in the jobs that they hated that, and so I wonder if that could be a reason why we go into burnout also.
Yeah, I think you have already answered the question too, that different people have different motivating factors. Some people are motivated by the safety of not needing to plan their lives for themselves by themselves. And this 9 to 5 cycle of somebody telling you exactly what you need to do is very securing. And also having this like constant paycheck and all this. And for an artist, so what I was thinking in my head when you were saying this was that, okay, if a kid has energy to run, are they going to run faster if they know where they need to run, or if there's no destination? Like if they have a vision, okay, I'm going to run to this tree, versus they're just let to run on the field wherever, you know. So I
Mm-hmm.
think whenever we have a vision where we go, we're just so much more sustainable, is it the word? We're using our energy in more smart ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that also the visions we get about our future is, are we creating the future or are we receiving the future?
Mm.
I don't know. But I still want to believe that there's a co-creational element in everything we do, and having a purpose in mind is definitely helping us to utilize our resources in more smarter manner.
Yeah. So if that is a case, that our passion and our vision gives us kind of more motivation about enjoying what we're doing. What was your way and what was your aha moment that you felt like, okay, this is not what I want to do and I have to change something? And how was your journey to find a way to become a breath worker, body worker, now traveling around the world and sharing those holistic modalities with people? How did you find out this is it?
Actually, few weeks ago, I realized that, wow, I don't have a lot of trophies in my childhood home, but the one trophy I had was from first aid contest. So I used to study first aid and going to like this forest competition. So this kind of like emergency worker thing was the only trophy I had from childhood. And I've always been like this activist and trying to figure out how we can uh, live better and feel better and going. And there's many NGOs in our world, I think, who are saying that they are making things better, but there's a lot of what is this word? That sometimes if you are too institutionalized, your hands are like strapped
Right.
tight behind your back. So it can oftentimes be easier to just breathe with people I discovered. And I needed this thing for myself the most. I remember the first training I took with you was just because I saw that, oh my God, there's people massaging each other for a week. And you get massaged, and you can massage, and you learn how to massage. And I need this. And then this week was great. It was very uncomfortable for me as well because I was not used to
Mm.
all this like intimacy.
Mm.
And then yeah, I remember you saying that, oh, we have this breath work next week and it could be interesting to you. But I was really like, this week was already very too much for me. Like, give me a break. But the next morning I woke up with the introduction of the breathwork week, and I was like, this is exactly what I need. I need all of this. And then I asked you, do you still have space? Because you already started, and I was at home in my bed. And I just put my clothes on and had my boyfriend back then to drive me there. And he said that, Elina, don't go there. You're just wasting your time. And like, you took already one training and don't go. And I almost listened to him. I almost was going to tell him that, okay, let's just drive somewhere else. But I'm so happy that I did not listen to him and I got dropped off because now it has been my passion for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And it has been a great way to melt into communities as well, because every time I'm in a new country, a new community, and I can share this practice, then it's an immediate way of how to um, emotionally connect and intimately connect with people from this real space, not from this superficial space, but it has um, taught me resonance.
Great. And I think it's so fantastic also to be able to do all these therapies, because we can be nomadic in a way. We can travel, we can go to new place, and whenever we are in the world, people will always need some support. They might be suffering from pain or some trauma, and they might need breath work, body work, support, fascial release, and those tools are kind of serving humanity. I think this is the other thing for me, being engaged with something that brings meaning. For me, this is also very important. That I understood it after quitting corporation, that just doing job that is based on the on the virtue that doesn't really resonate with my heart, I get bored. And versus doing job that is really in service, is really supporting others, literally supporting some people's life. That's for me. It's also bring a lot of energy to really keep going and moving. So I really like that we're doing this holistic support for others. So we have this topic today: healing from burnout, the role of breath work, body work, and massage in recovery. So if anybody also has some questions from audience, you can type in the chat. So Elina and myself will be happy to respond to those questions. So feel free to comment or ask anything, and will be great to engage this way. So what else, Elina, on the topic? What else would you add?
I would like to ask you, what is your way to create yourself rhythm and a structure that is leaving you enough space to be in flow and spontaneous creation as well? But how is there like some non-negotiables that you have? Has this ever been a challenge for you to have a rhythm and structure, or this is something you just picked up from the corporate and it's just still going?
Mm-hmm. Yes, very interesting. After I quit corporate, a little bit like what you shared, I went into other extreme. I went to extreme of completely neglecting material world, completely neglecting any structures. For a few years, I was just nomadic, traveling around, staying in different hotels or at the friends, and pretty much had no structure. My only engagement was finding courses I was interested in and doing the courses and moving pretty much month by month. With a little bit of planning of the flights, in advance, because I was broke, so I had to really be careful about spendings, finding cheaper hotels. But there was no structure, and then I find out I relearn the structure. And for me, rituals, I call them ritual more than structure. Rituals are very important because they bring me back to the body, and they keep more balance, energetical balance for me. So something not non-negotiable for me, it's my rituals of movement. Right? So every day I move my body. Either it's run, swim, gym, yoga, dance, whatever it is. But I find at least 1 hour minimum every single day that I keep my body moving, keep my joints, flexible, and this gives me tremendous joy and keeps me healthy. Like sometimes I travel a lot and do many groups, sometimes back to back, and I believe that moving more my body, also meditation, keeps my mind clear, keeps my head kind of relaxed. And so I relearned that. I think 6 years ago I started slowly taking care more about my body, and those rituals are very important. Taking care of my diet, it's also very important for me. And finding time for intimacy with my girlfriend, intimacy with my friends, with family. I think this is important because for a while I was so busy also working some time ago that I got a lot of intimacy through my work, being with other people. But I think this is not enough, in a way that I also feel like my rituals are about relaxing in the household, relaxing with the close ones, and being authentic with the close ones, and that gives me somehow fulfillment. I'm at the stage in my life that the work is not anymore priority, and it's more about relating and being authentic. Is where I'm shifting towards, and sometimes it's a challenge because the lifestyle I build is, it's very nomadic, very based on a lot of travels. But if you ask me priority, that would be intimacy in relationships, taking care of my body, and taking care of my thoughts, feelings, like staying at peace with myself, to find that balance. between work, and this is non-negotiable for me. This I need to find time. And yeah, spontaneous creativity. This is for me something that that is also important in terms of my teachings, because I've been teaching for last 12 years, and many of the content I'm teaching is, it's kind of based on the same ideas, but I keep on finding new ways to present it, or I keep on finding new ways to engage with people, because it keeps it interesting for me. I'm not bored anymore talking about some topics on and on and on. So that's where spontaneous creativity comes. That I don't plan anymore. I have some structure of my teachings, but I don't plan anymore what I will say in advance when I talk about some topic. I let it flow, and part of it is also, if I fail, it's okay. Because part of this spontaneous creativity, for me, it's a fear of failure. Am I ready? Am I good enough? Am I prepared well enough? It's about kind of going into perfectionist mode. And so just letting go of that and being okay that, okay, even if I fail, it's also okay. And admitting the failure also, it's a part of it. So yeah,
Do you,
those are my.
can I ask more questions?
Sure, yes.
So what is your relationship to your inner critic? Do you have that? Like everybody has this
Yeah,
voice in their head.
very strong one. Very strong. Yeah, the inner critic is something that I'm still working on. My 12th house is Saturn and Moon together. So Saturn is this like inner critic, like the grumpy voices in the head, and then playful Moon that love to be creative, love to be spontaneous and play, and so they often collide. And this is something that I'm working on, how I can watch the inner critic, and how I can allow the Moon to be more playful. And this is something that, yeah, sometimes comes into my life, and I have to be really careful not to listen to those voices, because they carry me away in some dark corners, dark places. And so I think we all many of us have those inner critics. And I think for me, that inner critic is basically designed for uh, I think eventually, it comes from lack of self-worth, and it comes to the play. Even if the things are flowing good, it comes on a way to make some disturbance, and and make a little bit of yeah, mess, which is good also, because it always brings some inner work, and looking inside what's happening. Um, is it really real what's happening? Because very often it's just out of context, and it has nothing to do with reality.
And breath work is like just a huge part of your world, and you're teaching this a lot, and you have done it yourself a lot, and you've experienced a lot of different ways of breath work. What is how, I don't expect you to like breathe for an hour on a mat every day, but has there, and I believe that this breath is probably already like part of your system anyway. But what kind of breathing has become your favorite, or that maybe helped you with performance anxiety or
Yeah.
whatever your challenge is?
You know, my favorite type of breath is energizing breath. I love going to the mountains. Now I'm in Greece, so I go for walks to the mountains or on the beach, and I keep on charging. I keep on breathing for 5 to 20 minutes. Somehow I feel that the charging breath wakes me up. I like to feel this awakening in my body, and so this is my favorite way to keep the energized, keep the the breath flowing, keep my body in a good shape, and so I there's many different ways, either like through the sport, or basically I engage with just the breathing practices, either standing or laying down, and paying attention to my body when I breathe, because there are times when I go through some stressful periods and I'm noticing my diaphragm is tight or my belly is tight, or there's some tension in my shoulders or thorax. And for me, the idea for breathing is not just breathing, but observing how is my body responding to breath, where breath is interrupted when it's flowing fully, and finding ways to keep opening the body and through the movement, through stretches, so I can really fully breathe into my lungs. And and there are moments when there's too much activation, and then of course it's like softer, mindful breathing, just to calm down, maybe at night before sleep. But I do breathe every day. I have my practices that I keep engaging with the breath work.
So when you're doing your movement practice, breath work is naturally part of that as well, right?
Yeah. It's the awareness of breath is always there for me in the movement practice. Yeah.
One more question that I get asked a lot, and it's a good opportunity now to ask this for my teacher, is that when do the traumas get healed?
When do the trauma get healed? Good question. Wow, it's a long answer. I think we are, trauma lives in the body, like, you're a breathwork practitioner. So some events from the past, they has been stored, emotions, the feeling states, the energetics experience from that event is in our body. And these events, especially from developmental trauma, they create our personality, they create who we are, they create our ego layer, our muscular layer, our emotional layer. And inside of these three layers is our heart. It's self-love, joy, happiness. This is like core of our being. And essentially, each one of us wants to reach out from that self-loving presence to be intimate with external environment. And sometimes we have different defense mechanisms to protect this wounded heart through tension in our physical layer and some emotional layer. And then there's the ego layer, like sometimes it's denial, self-judgments, criticism, all sort of mechanisms that we have created to survive, and those mechanisms are important. So like, we cannot expect we let go of our ego, because it's part of our structure. What means to me to heal the trauma is we let go of our ego. And then we let go of all our personality structure, and I think we can witness those structures. We can witness with presence, but I'm not sure if we can just let it go. I mean, the enlightened masters say we can, but I'm not there, and I'm hard for me to speak from that space and what it really means. But I believe that the healing happens that we bring more resilience for our nervous system, that our trauma is still there, the response in our body is still there, but it's not overwhelming anymore. We're not overwhelmed with certain activations that might come. If we pass and somebody speaks loudly next to us, and we might fire it up with freeze because this reminds us of father shouting, or brother being violent, or whatever else, it can be triggered. So next time when we expand this resilience of our nervous system, this sound from external environment, it's not anymore going to shut down. We're not going into freeze anymore. So we still have experience. We still might be aware of those voices, but they're not affecting our physical body. And that for me is where we go into healing trauma. That's when we can close the cycle of fight or flight that is running in our body, and all these different stimuli and woundings get triggered, and we are reacting to environment, hurting ourselves or others. And when we can step back and respond, instead of reacting, that's where we are coming out of this pattern from traumatic event, and that's where healing happens. So yes, we can heal trauma, and that happens when we bring more awareness to all those triggers. But if we can let it go, I don't know, because they are part of our system. So I'm not sure.
Have you ever met the person that, oh, they're healed?
What?
Have you ever met a person who says that I am healed, or that?
Yeah. I met many people like this, and they come to trainings, and after training they said they had no idea about themselves at all. So there is sometimes we don't know ourselves enough, thinking, oh, I didn't have trauma, nothing serious happened in my childhood. But like, we are born with such a different sensitivity that we cannot just talk about big T trauma. Sometimes a small event, like as a children we were not fed when we needed, this can be traumatic. Or something happens that was not met our needs, and this could be already traumatic. It doesn't have to be like serious violence in the house or abuse. It can be sometimes very, um, it could be lack of love also from parents, lack of interest, parents too busy, didn't give enough love, were not present for child. This is trauma for a small child that needs attention, and that child then needs to, for example, hurt themselves to get love from parents, when because that was maybe the only way the parents give them attention. So it doesn't have to be like, sometimes we have unrealistic picture about what is trauma, and we try to compare our event with somebody else's event, and we feel like, oh, nothing happens in my childhood, loving parents, and I don't have any issue. I believe we all are exposed to certain factors in our life, and if it's not even through our parents, we go to school, and as a small children, age of 6 to 12, we're not designed to sit in a chair for so many hours and listen to our teachers. And then there's a violence at school, and so many different ways that can impact us in society, that I don't think in our current society in the Western world, I don't think it's possible to be raised without trauma, without this interruption of the nervous system that really impacts us and put us on alert, either in freeze or fight or flight. I don't think it's possible. It's just times that is a lot of different stimuli, and for innocent being that is born into this love with pure love, I don't think it's possible to go through it.
One thing that I see a lot in this healing communities is that it can turn out to be a never-ending victim cycle. That like people, and I'm guilty of it myself, I think as well, that I got so head over heels into this healing world that I first didn't give myself enough time to integrate. And second, I just kept on digging because of the perfectionist kicked in. So what is your experience with people? Is there a point where there's like enough, and how can you tell that this is enough? Like, you don't need to like keep on working through the past. You can now focus on building the future, so you don't get into victim, predator, judge, this like Hartman triangle, shadow. Like, don't get stuck in the shadow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think it's a personal, very personal question for some people. Doing some self-developmental group once a month or once a year, it's enough, and for them, they move on in their life and they feel fulfilled with it. And for some other people who consider themselves like seekers, like you or myself, that for first 8 years of my journey, we're constantly jumping into the groups. But at some point for me, the indicator was that my soul and my physical body were not catching up. Because when we go through the self-development, our soul is growing, our soul has certain nourishment, we feel fulfilled because our physical bodies start getting in touch with the soul. We connect with our emotions, with our feelings, with our sensations. And this is kind of like a portal to connect body and the soul. And at some point of my development, I noticed that my soul was so fulfilled, but my physical body was not able to catch up, to align, if that makes sense. And I had to take a breaks to give a space for my soul and my body to merge in some ways, so they could, because it was too much for my body, for my physical body, to keep going, to keep in another process, to keep another expressions and finding and digging and processing. It was just tired. It was tired for my physical body. And so just keep listening to what's your soul telling you, and find a way to integrate. And this is inner feeling, and if that time comes, you feel like this is integrated, then move on and do another group. And again, we have different purpose of spiritual path. For me, it was clear that I want to commit myself to spiritual growth. This was my main life purpose. Like, I knew I want to be on this path, and this is it. And some people are, want to have daily mundane lives with their families, kids, work, and all sort of commitments, daily commitments, and they do occasional work just to connect with themselves, and with a little bit less intensity, and it's also beautiful. So just finding what's your purpose, why you're doing it, what's your motivation of the spiritual work, and keep listening to your body, that it's safe for your physical body. You don't overstretch your body. You're not going into shock, panic, or overwhelm, but it's just gradual. Give yourself time to process, to integrate, take breaks if you need. And then there's also, everybody has different resilience, so our nervous system can contain different stimuli than the others. So if you are a person that is very sensitive, the nervous system is fragile, most likely you might need longer gaps to really settle down. Otherwise, you're constantly buzzing with the fight or flight, and it might be too much. So listening to yourself is the main factor here.
knowing the self to listen to too, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Elina. I think it would be nice way to make a closure here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I'm very happy to host you today. And thank you for amazing questions also. And tell us where we can find you when you are practicing, because we are here. Many Estonian people are probably on the call, so where we can find you.
So you can find me on Breathe with Elina Sofia on Instagram, and my website is elinasofia.com. And probably on my Facebook page is also a good place to find events. And right now I'm doing group sessions in Berlin and Kuressaare. So the next one in Berlin will be the 22nd, which I think has one more spot.
Oh, nice.
But private sessions we can still schedule in, and then after then we do sessions in Kuressaare and then back in Berlin. But the best way to stay updated is to follow me and check my page because I'm posting everything.
Thank you, Elina. Fantastic to talk to you, and thank you everybody for joining us. Have a great day. Bye.